The Biden administration is responding by sending 3,000 U.S. troops to try to get the remaining personnel at the U.S. Embassy out of Kabul safely. And it comes months after President Biden announced this withdrawal from the U.S. forces of the region. He also just said, I believe yesterday, if not the day before, that he had no regrets about the decision to pull out of Afghanistan. I understand there was a meeting last night at the White House with the defense secretary and the Department of State as well, and they discussed all of this and decided they were going to send 3,000 troops back in. And we're learning this evening, that Kandahar, the second largest city, which we knew was in danger of falling, has now also fallen. So that leaves only Kabul left, and that's where the U.S. Embassy is. Brian, your thoughts on what we saw develop today?
Well, you covered great a couple hours ago on your show. 3 battalions of Marines and 1 battalion of Marines are going in, not to help out and not to save Kabul, but to get our people out. This is one of the ultimate embarrassments in my lifetime. I could imagine if I was cognizant of what was going on in the world when Saigon fell, when we left South Vietnam and everyone said it was going to be fine, and obviously it wasn't. So we could have left 2,500 troops and avoided this whole total thing. And where is the President of the United States? In Delaware. The Secretary of Defense, General Mattis, did not approve of President Trump pulling out and leaving the Kurds naked in Syria. He quit. And for General Austin to be on the ground as long as he did and serve as long as he did and get the plaudits he got before he got that job, and for him to do this and just follow orders, not speak up, and not somehow get his way, I think is inexcusable. Admiral Kirby knows better. What I watched him painfully try to say is it's no big deal as we try to quickly get our people out of Kabul. And guess what happens? As we speak, women are being burned alive if their hair is exposed. They're being married off to Taliban warfighters, and they're giving up and running for the hills. Not because they have no courage, because they have no leadership. Their leaders left. Their leaders weren't trained. The U.S. left them at the doorstep, and we left without any knowledge, without any plan, and we left irresponsibly, and the world is laughing at us, and China is giggling. They can't believe how humiliated we are. We look as bad as the Russians when they ran for the hills in the 1980s. And that was the fall of the Soviet Empire.
Which is why we shouldn't have gone there in the first place, right?
You mean,
we should look we
went have to go there. Bin Laden was there.
Well, we went there 20 years ago on good faith because of Bin Laden. That was 20 years ago. Times have changed. Regarding, you brought up a point about Mattis and the Kurds. That's just a great example of how we are lied to about things. We were told that if we left, right, all the Kurds would die. Have we heard anything about that? I think we're war weary at this point. And it's like you're in jail and you're trying to stay awake. And the moment you fall asleep, someone's going to take your shoes. So are we going to stay awake forever in Afghanistan, or are we going to get the hell out?
It's to our advantage to be there.
No,
China, Russia, Pakistan, and terrorists there.
It's to our advantage. But Brian,
to have a presence.
Brian, the presence can be technology.
No,
it's been 20 years.
We don't know what's going on the ground right now.
Then that's
the CIA
on us.
Has left.
Have we been there for 20 years and we still don't know what's on the ground?
We left.
But here,
you said we've been there for 20 years.
In US we left.
It is. But here's the problem. What was the mission in the first place, right? What was the mission in the first place? Absolutely. But when you look at what happened after that, the building of schools, the protection of that area, and it is in the national security interest of the United States of America to have a presence in that area, to be able to have to have eyes on the ground, to be able to get there quickly. So now China and Russia are filling that void. China is watching what is happening. So do we want to lose?
They're not going to fill the void.
Let them do it. Let China be the third sucker in this.
500 years people have been going into Afghanistan.
Would you call this a responsible withdrawal? Because I spoke with Secretary Pompeo today. He said he cannot believe what he is seeing on the ground right now. And that there's a responsible way to get our people out.
Training. Look, your analogy to Vietnam is in some ways the perfect analogy. Is your argument that now we should have remained a presence in Vietnam while their civil war was going on? If we just, what would we do?
More well-read than you who know more about history. What if we had left South Korea? What if we had left Japan? What would that have done to our influence in that region? The influence we had in the region by having a presence. In 2014, we stopped being on the offensive and we became in the supporting role. We haven't lost a man or a woman in a year and a half.
With 20 years of training of the Afghan military, that they are not able to put up a defense means we would just be the policeman in Afghanistan forever? When would we leave?
We are the defense for Japan. We are the defense essentially for South Korea.
But are you willing to do that in Afghanistan?
Our presence there was providing the stability in that region, and we kept an eye on al-Qaeda and this new group called ISIS, like when President Obama thought it was a great idea to leave Iraq.
Dagan.
Here's what Joe Biden said not long ago. There's going to be no circumstance where you see people lifted off the roof of an embassy
Great quote.
of the United States from Afghanistan. It is not comparable at all.
Oops. Kabul will fall in 30 days.
This administration and this administration's foreign policy is that of miscalculation and underestimation. And if they can't handle Afghanistan, oh, wait, it's the Taliban's taken over much faster than we thought, leaving behind women to suffer cruelly. What are we doing with China? Like, where does that leave us? That's right. They're a competitor. They're not an enemy. Talk to the families of the, 4.5 million people that have died around the globe because of the China virus. This is a stain on America for years to come, and it raises a multitude of questions about the direction of our relationships with any allies, because we just turned our backs on the people who helped us in Afghanistan.
You have to think about the families and the young men and women who lost their lives in Afghanistan, who believed that they were fighting for something that was noble. And
I don't see
if one of them is your child, your son, your daughter, what are you thinking right now as you watch the entire thing go back to square one? That they died for nothing?
And it's still salvageable.
I mean, if you want to look at this as a loss, it's a lost cause. It's not, you go, this is a terrible stain. No, people fought there valiantly there. We got bin Laden. When do you say enough? When do you say enough? Do you want another 10 years, another 20 years? Soon to be there forever. That's people logically that's a logical question. And you can't demean people because they think that maybe they want their kids back.
You're mischaracterizing the situation on the ground. And you are right if you bring that up, and you have brought it up in the past, about President Trump's. This is President Trump's plan. Okay, I got it. Didn't agree with it then, and I've said it, maybe not on this show. Number two is, you're not asked, this is not a hot war. Greg, your point is well taken. If this is maybe 2010 and, we're losing a dozen guys here and a dozen guys there, what's going on? What's the plan? I get it. But this is not a hot war. This was a holding, and we had influence in that region, and you had a generation of Afghans and these horrible people called women who had actually a chance to live their lives because of our presence, and they don't understand what we did.
Well, with the 20th anniversary of 9/11 coming up next month, how long do we have to wait before a terrorist group, Al-Qaeda or a new one, regroups in that area of the country and attacks the United States? Because
that was the original mission, is to make sure that it's not a safe haven for terrorists who attack us here. And whether or not we're going to see that backpedaled. And also the 9/11 pullout date was an artificial date. The fact that President Biden wanted to leave on September 11th, to have that complete on that date on the 20th anniversary, I think is, there's a lot of legitimate questions raised about the decision to do that. All right, we're going to leave it there on that. But coming up next, Americans are suffering pain at the pump, and President Biden